Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this chess postmortem. I wanted to take a look at a game that I played at the chess club last night. So this is a slow game, just played with the time control of a game in 2 hours with a 5-second delay. I had the black pieces and my opponent kicked off with d4. I played d5 and after c4, c6, the Slav defense. And there are two main moves here. There's lots of moves, but the two main moves you will see are knight to f3 and knight to c3. And one of the differences between these moves is that knight to f3 prevents the move e5, whereas knight to c3 allows it. And my opponent played knight c3, so I played e5. And this is known as the Winawer gambit. One of the things I like about this gambit is that it is you can play it on move 3, so it's not like one of these gambits like the Marshall gambit where you have to play 8 moves of theory before you finally get to a position where you can even play the gambit. Here you quite often get this. I mean, the move knight f3 is more popular than the move knight c3, but you still see this a fair amount, and then you can play this gambit. Now, it's not like this is the most terrific gambit ever. You can play and get an edge with white. So white has an edge here with good play, and so that's why you don't see it so much at the top level. One example of how to play the white side against the Winawer gambit is the game Kasparov-Nikolic from 1992, and I'll include a pointer to that in the description of this video so you can check it out from the white point of view. The way Kasparov continued, and the main move here is to take immediately. And then after you push on, knight here, queen check. That's the idea. Bishop to d2, you pick up the pawn. And Kasparov continued with knight back to g3, knight out to f3. He spent a little bit of time rearranging his pieces and then eventually got in the move e3. So I think a well-timed e3 to undermine this advanced center pawn of black will lead to an edge for white with good play. But anyway, if you want to learn more about that, you can take a look at the Kasparov game. What my opponent played here, let's see, there are other choices after e5. So other lines here include e3, just declining the gambit, but black gets an okay game after taking on d4 and then developing the knight to f6. So that is okay for black. Or this move c takes d5, usually leading to similar kind of play, but maybe it's not quite as accurate. I mean, it opens up some lines for white, but it also opens up a square for black's knight to develop. So it's probably more accurate just to take immediately on e5 and leave the tension with the c and the d pawn for a while. Okay, so at this point, yes, he took my d pawn, I took back, and now he takes the gambit pawn, and I push on with d4. So this is the main line at this point after c takes d5. The knight goes to e4, and then queen a5 check, just as in the other line you want to get the pawn back and get your queen out and try and cause trouble. Basically, that's the idea. And he blocks with the bishop, which is the most natural move, and I think probably the best move. It's also possible to play knight back to d2. And the one thing that black needs to remember in that case is when the knight goes to d2 to block the check, then you want to develop your queenside knight either to c6 or d7, depending on which one is possible. C6 if you can play it, and use that to round up the pawn, and that's best play for black. So, and it leads to an okay position. Anyway, bishop d2 is the main move here, and I grab the pawn. So far so good. This knight is under attack. Knight back to g3 is the main move. I developed my knight to c6. I'm a little bit out of theory at this point. I've never actually had this position because normally I see the line where they take on where they take first and leave this tension with the c and d pawns. This square is not available for the knight, but this seems to be an okay way to play. Just develop this knight to a good square and add a little more defense to this advanced pawn. This is kind of the trump card of black's position. His development is lagging. His queen is going to be subject to tempo-gaining attacks, but he does have this advanced pawn which has some influence over white's position. So knight f3 is played. Very natural move, developing, attacking the queen, putting more pressure on the d-pawn. And here I make my first mistake. So the normal move, and probably what I should have played, is queen back to d6. And in the case where the pawns are still here, a white pawn on c4 and a black pawn on d5, I don't have the move queen to d5 like I have the option of. But I was in this position during the game, and I was thinking about this move queen to d5, and I thought that was kind of interesting because the queen on d5 stays out of the way of both bishops. So both my bishops can develop, and I didn't see any real drawback to it. I just missed my opponent's reply. So right here is your first chance maybe to think about the game. Say you have the white pieces and you're in this position. What's a good move for white here? Okay, the best move here, and the one that I overlooked, is bishop to c3. And this is what my opponent played. And it's pretty clever. It takes advantage of this pin. And now you can see one difference between the queen on d5 and the queen on d6. The queen were on d6, it would be protected by the bishop. And so there wouldn't be a pin here. And so this move wouldn't be possible. So that's why queen d6, here, let's erase those arrows. That's why queen d6 is just a better square for the queen, even though it does block the bishop momentarily. So yeah, I'm in a bit of an awkward situation. I have to think about it. And the best move here is bishop to c5, I guess. And so let's show how it might go with best play. It's still not winning for white, but white gets some edge. White follows up with the move e3, and now knight to f6. Black needs to continue to develop, and white gets the pawn, and the bishop drops back here. But after a couple of more moves, say bishop to e2 and castles, pretty typical play, we get a situation where white has the extra pawn, but well, black has a clear plan of piling up on it and adding pressure. And so this is a real gambit, but black has compensation. And white's pieces are somewhat disorganized. So anyway, this is not a win for white. This is a position that black can play as a gambit. He just has maybe less than full compensation for the pawn. I guess that's the best way to look at it, but still playable for black. That's with best play, and that's why queen to d5 there is a mistake. Gives that slight edge to white. But I played queen d5. My opponent played bishop c3, and I didn't play the best move here. I played another move, which I thought was interesting, and I thought was good at the time. I played the move bishop to b4. And so there's a couple lines I calculated here that I thought were kind of interesting. First of all, if he just takes the bishop in order to try and win the pawn, then he can't actually grab the pawn. There's a nice tactic here, which hopefully you can spot. And I'm going to give it away. I can just take that knight because of this classic knight c2 check, the royal fork, hitting the king, the queen, and the rook, although picking up the queen is the main idea. So I remain a piece up. So I thought, well, it was safe to play bishop to b4 there. But in fact, black can take it. Now, one other line I calculated was this line. He takes, I take back, and he comes out here with the check. And then I saw, well, I could just place the knight back to c6. And now this is one of those positions where white gets pretty good development here. He castles queenside, starts putting immediate pressure on the pawn. But I can develop with counter threats with bishop e6, taking a look at the the pawn on a2 there. So it turns out I don't lose any material, and it's once again a typical kind of position with the Winawer gambit where white has the edge, white has an advantage, but black is still in the game and has some interesting counterplay. So not a position I'd be afraid of. So I'd seen those two lines, and so I thought before playing the move bishop b4, I thought it was safe. But there is another line here. After bishop takes, knight takes. Instead of grabbing the pawn or going for the check, move queen d2 is pretty good here. And let's see. It says the best move for me is to just drop back here to c6, and now e4 can be played, or e3 going after the pawn. My queen is still pinned here. And this gives some a significant edge to white. So that's why that move bishop b4 was actually a mistake. It's because of this move queen d2, which maybe was not so obvious at this point in the game. After I played bishop to b4, white has to evaluate the situation and see all those lines and see if he can find the best line after bishop takes, knight takes. Anyway, so that is the best play for white here, and that's why bishop b4 is a mistake, taking there and then playing queen to d2. My opponent didn't play that. In fact, he made a horrible mistake here, and the way the mistake happened is kind of instructive, because I make these kind of mistakes all the time. He didn't like the move bishop takes b4, probably because of that knight to c2 check line. The move he was thinking about was e4. And so he evaluated this move. And he thought after a move like queen to a5, that's what we're looking at this after the game, it looks like I get to keep the pawn. It looks like this is a pretty comfortable position for black. Actually, if he trades bishops here, black is even a little better. We looked at this line. Queen takes, bishop takes, and then, queen takes. No, I take it back. Actually, knight takes is good for black. With this line, with queen takes and queen d2, this is a position that's about even. But the point is that black gets to keep the pawn, and it's a pretty annoying pawn. So the material's even, and black has that annoying pawn. So he didn't like that position. In fact, the engine rates this as about even. Although if I had played knight takes b4, that's rated as even better for black. So he, after thinking for a long time about that move e4, he gave up on it and played the move e3 instead. And this turns out to be a terrible mistake. So see if you can spot the tactic here. And this is going to be the last tactical quiz here. So think about this for a long time. Pause the video and see if you can figure this one out. Yeah, I almost missed this one during the game. I actually could play queen a5 here and get an okay position. Maybe about even or maybe a slight edge for black. But there is just a winning tactic here, which is d takes c3, a pseudo sacrifice of the queen. And the problem is he can't take the queen because this move here is too deadly. Pawn takes b2 check. And not only have I won a piece and I'm going to win another piece, I'm also going to get a queen. I mean, his king has no good squares. Well, I can't say that. He can move his king, and then I get a queen. So I've got a rook and a pawn for the queen, and then I get my queen back. So that's just a clear win. And let's see, what is the best move? The best move is actually what he played, which is to let's see, after e3, I played pawn takes bishop. Yeah, the best move is what he played, which is to just take back and admit that you're going to be a piece down for the rest of the game. I took here on c3, so that's a check. And I could win the rook here. Let's see, he blocked with the knight, which is the best move. And, there's a lot of good moves for black here. I chose a simple continuation. The chess engine is recommending, taking the rook in the corner so that I'm a rook up, or knight to f6 is also an interesting idea. Just keeping the pin because nothing is going anywhere. The rook could move though. Anyway, a couple of interesting ideas there, but I went for the simplest continuation. I said, I'm a whole piece up. I don't want to be greedy and then get into a position that's unnecessarily complicated. So I just played the simple move bishop takes d2, which forces the queens off. He has to take back, and then I take here. Let's see, there was one other idea here. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention, just because it's so cute, that he can't easily walk away from the check with his king because of queen to b5 check. I was thinking queen c4 check. I guess he can block with his queen, so I could have traded queens this way and then grabbed the rook. Yeah, so that's even better for black than what he played. So blocking with the knight is the best move. And anyway, yeah, instead of grabbing the rook or developing the knight. I just traded everything off here. And the game went on quite a long time, but I stayed a piece up the whole game, and we ended up in an end game where I had a knight and 2 pawns, and he had 3 pawns, and it wasn't too difficult to win. So the game went on for like 64 moves, I think. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, 65 moves actually. So I don't want to go through all the moves. Basically, the game is over at this point. There's white is just down a piece, and it's not too much trouble for me to develop my remaining pieces and just trade everything off and win the end game. And that's what eventually happened. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.